Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be looking at a scenario where the Turkish reformed the Ottoman Empire. Now, you might be wondering, what are these borders? Well, these borders are made because of, basically, some people in the Turkish country of Turkey want to reform their glory as the Ottoman Empire, and they are going to be making a rebellion and to reform this, and let's see how this goes. Alright. So, obviously, they're going to immediately be taking Thrace because this is going to be a big thing for them. They're also going, these rebellions are going to, now these three ones are going to be doing the most work just because no one really lives over here in Turkey, I don't think. So, this guy isn't really going to be doing much, but they are going to cut off some people, some like Turkish troops from this area. Now these guys are going to be doing a lot as they take out this area of Turkey, and these guys meet up in the north of the coast. Well, these guys start expanding southward. Now all the rebellions have met up, and Turkey just starts getting carved like a pumpkin until they finally surrender. So let's do the peace treaty. And finally, Turkey will be ready to make the Ottoman Empire. Alright, so now the Turkish are ready to make the Ottoman Empire real again. So, honestly, the first person that they're going to be declaring war on is probably most likely Syria. Now, honestly, Turkey has a lot of beef with Serbia. Syria. I don't really know why. Most because of like the Kurdish over here or something. I don't know. Maybe because of just something. But the Ottoman troops would just easily enter, and because Turkey is buffed for this, they would just they would probably just steamroll Syria. They're just not like a really fun place to be in right now. I mean, they're really just. So, obviously, full Turkish annexation, and Turkey is looking a little bit bigger now. Now, obviously, these guys would be like, oh, well, Turkey just expanded. That's new. But Greece would be probably the most worried as Turkey aggression. I mean, if they're aggressing towards the Middle East, they're probably going to expand towards here. Just like, oh, we can't have that. So Greece begins to probably, use as much money as they can to upgrade their military spending. Now, obviously, their economy was going down, but as of recently, the Greek economy is going up, and they would probably just keep on asking for Germany for money, which is very great. But the next country that Turkey will declare on is actually multiple countries. Yep. Yeah, Turkey's gonna go for the big money play. Now, for some reason, there's no response to this, and yeah, so Turkey's gonna have a fun, jolly time, just running through the Middle East, and with no action against them, they just keep on doing it. So Turkish troops go through Iraq, and they're going to be like they're gonna be focusing on Iraq because, I think Israel's probably the strongest here, but Iraq is also a pretty strong country. So, yeah. So they would have some trouble dealing through Iraq, and let's just say Iraq gives them a stalemate, which above Turkey, that would probably not happen. But let's just say it does, because why not? Meanwhile, the Ottomans would focus a bunch of forces on Jordan, taking them out. And then going on to Israel. Now, Israel is a pretty strong country. They have an Iron Dome, and that's a pretty strong force. But Israel, just against a buff Turkey, just wouldn't last. But eventually, Iraq would surrender, and Kuwait would follow. And let's do the peace treaty once again, because this video is going to be a lot of peace treaties, so please stick with me. Anyways, this is the peace treaty. Hooray! Yeah, but I'm probably just gonna, yeah. So, now Turkey has a few options. It can either keep on expanding to the Middle East, and expand their influence through maybe the African, Saudi Arabia, or they could go in for Europe, which that's what they're going to do, because the Turkish are going to take a break on the Middle East, because obviously Egypt is a strong country, and so is Saudi Arabia, and so is definitely Iran. So they don't want to deal with them. And plus, Russia, if they invade the Caucasus, Russia's going to do something about that. And they don't want to face Russia yet. So they're going to go after Europe. First person that they're probably going to declare war on is Bulgaria, just because they've definitely been keeping up about how Greece is spending more. So they're going to take out Bulgaria first. But this is where they're going to get their first response. Also, NATO is not in this, do not ask. Greece will join the war on, on Bulgaria's side. I don't know why they would do this, but I guess they just did. So Ottoman troops would also begin invading into Greece, taking out many things. Okay. Alright, so obviously the Ottomans would cut Bulgaria off from Greece, and would also be landing in this bottom island. I don't know what it's called. I might be stupid, but yeah. So the Ottomans would eventually take Athens, and the Greek military spending would look like it was going to waste. But eventually the Greeks would actually stalemate the Ottomans, as they just wouldn't want. Eventually Sofia would also be taken with Bulgaria, and Bulgaria would bring Romania into the war, which the Ottomans would actually kind of love. But Romanian troops would push down, taking back a little bit of land and taking back Sofia. This was just because fresh Romanian troops into Turkey sending troops. They were already in here, but they were already suffering casualties. Because yes, the Turkish are taking land, but although they are winning most of the battles, there are casualties. I mean, Bulgarian forces doing nothing. So a stalemate would come here. And the stalemate would be on these two fronts. Meanwhile, Greece would be pushing back a little bit on this front, but it wouldn't be much, as the Ottomans would finally break the stalemate over here, and yeah. So Turkey, which is it's kind of called the Ottomans, but I can't call it the Ottomans yet because they're not full Ottoman. But the Turkish do want to take more of Balkan area and get into Ukraine and take Crimea. But eventually the Greeks are mostly encircled, but they still hold on. Sofia is recaptured as the Ottomans are sending more troops. Bulgaria is fully collapsed, and Romania is getting invaded. Bucharest is taken, because Bucharest is literally on the Bulgarian border. Don't get me wrong. And then eventually, yeah, the Romanians will hide in those mountains, though. Like, the Romanians have hid in the Transylvanian mountains, so Turkish are going to obviously just go around that, like they always have. And then, you know what? Someone else is going to join. Hungary is going to join. Why? They felt like it. They also wanted Transylvania back. So Hungarian troops would enter into Romania just trying to take back Transylvania, which they do, but they also just begin invading more. So eventually, Turkey begins to also invade this area, and Romania is fallen. Now it's just Greece, and Greece finally surrenders. Alright, let's do the peace. Alright, so as you can see here, Turkey has gotten very, very big into the Baltic, into the Balkans. But you can see as there's two Romanian puppets, as Turkey has other plans for them later. Now Turkey at first did want to fully annex this Romania and then leave this as a puppet, but they decided not to yet. They decided that they're gonna wait and then take it later. Next people that Turkey is going to declare war on, or shall I say the Ottoman Empire, is... Now, obviously, Hungary is going to jump in on this again, because why not? They have been cool with the Ottomans, and they're going to jump in on this as well. So, Turkish troops are going to be a little bit slow at first, as they are entering from, like the southern Balkans. But they eventually but they're going to have some trouble in Bosnia, as there are a lot of mines in Bosnia. So... The Ottomans, the Turkish troops are going to continue to move in Bosnia, and although there's tons of casualties, they would eventually do it. Yeah, so let's do another peace treaty, like the 40th peace treaty today. Hooray! Alright, so we're back, and yeah. So this is the peace treaty. Obviously, the Ottomans are going to take coastal areas of Egypt, but you can also see that the Ottomans had navy all the way up to here, but they retracted that navy as they need to send more navy up the Suez Canal to go fight with Italy. Speaking of it, the Ottomans won a naval battle right over here, and would begin take. I don't really know how naval battles really work. Like, I don't know if they just start once they win, they just begin pushing up towards the Italian peninsula, where they just begin bombarding it. But yeah, we'll just keep it like that for a while. Hold on. Eventually, they would just have a stalemate, while on land, Tunisians would be completely just surrender. Oh, what was that? Alright, so eventually the Tunisians would surrender and Ottoman troops would push out from Tunisia. Alright, so as you can see here, Turkey is now probably very happy right now. They have a bunch of the Balkans, but they're done with Europe now. They are done expanding into Europe, and they're going to leave Hungary alone because they have good relations with them. And plus, Hungary has been helping them with the Baltic, with the Romanian invasion and the Balkan invasion. But Turkey is done with the Balkans for now until they move on to Eastern Europe, which will probably be very soon, because they have very much plans in mind, I guess. So, who is Turkey going to declare war on next? Well, that's going to be Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I did kind of hint it, but also Egypt. They're not ready for the African conquest yet, because that's going to have a lot. So Saudi Arabia is the next two that they invade, but they are going to keep on taking. But Saudi Arabia is very barren, and they're kind of just a big desert. So Turkish troops are going to just be kind of just there, I guess. Eventually, the Turkish troops start moving down on the coast, as that's kind of what they had in history, and they surround Qatar. Is that Qatar? Yeah, it's Qatar. Before finally cutting off Saudi Arabia from the coast in the west. Yeah. Saudi Arabia with no coast cannot do any foreign trading, and that's kind of what keeps up their economy, I think, unless they're just making a bunch off oil, which they sell. Yeah. So Saudi Arabia is soon to fall, which they eventually surrender. Now it's time to do a 30th, I don't know, how many peace treaties have I done? Whatever, I'll see them when I edit this video. Alright, so the peace treaty is very simple. Turkey takes a lot of land, and Saudi Arabia becomes a Turkish puppet. Actually, I feel like Turkey would want more, so let's just give them a little bit more territory in the lake. Alright, there we go. Oh, that was very, very, very scary. I don't even know what a button I'm pressing. Like, I'm just trying to, like, erase. I'm trying to, like, fill in something, and it's just... oh, I did it again. Next country they're going to declare war on is Egypt, because they believe that Egypt was theirs, and they want to also just expand in Africa in general. Yeah, so the Ottomans, now I can rightfully call them the Ottomans because of this territory, the Ottomans are going to invade take the Suez Canal in actually a very short time, because the Ottomans had troops here because of Saudi Arabia, and they're going to basically kind of just roll over Egypt at first. And yeah, they have already taken the capital city, so they take out the northern coast and also use their naval and also take naval superiority of the area. In fact, we're actually going to make a naval thing. So Turkey, this is kind of what Turkey's navy looks like right now in the Red Sea. Of course, they have naval superiority along the coast, and they also have naval superiority in the Black Sea. Over here, of course, in the Adriatic Sea and the Aegean Sea. But yeah, over here in the Mediterranean, you can see that Cyprus is fully surrounded. And speaking of Cyprus, they're going to use this opportunity to completely declare war on them, because why not? They already have enough, and they already have a good foothold, and they can just use this for naval bases. And Cyprus is actually going to be really easy to take out. So the Ottomans are looking very good in their conquest, but soon they will all change, because the Russians are getting a little bit mad, because the Russians are planning on an invasion of Ukraine again, because timeline kind of just resets. So we're saying this is so yes, we're saying it's 2024, but we're also saying the Russian-Ukrainian war just didn't happen. So the Crimean War didn't no, not the Crimean War, all the way 18 something, but the Crimean War in 2014 is what I call it, because really the Russians invaded Crimea, and then they were kind of in a truce, and then the Russians just invaded Ukraine again. So the Ottomans do want to take land from Russia, but that's going to be very soon when they invade Ukraine, because Russia is going to jump in on that. Let's just say that. So, but not in the way that you think. Russia is going to jump in, but in a very different way. So the Ottomans used their naval superiority to take all coast of Egypt and began moving down the Nile, which looks something like that, I think. Yeah. So, but eventually Egypt will definitely stalemate them. Egypt is pretty strong, but they've been kind of waiting, I guess. So yeah. So that's very, very cool. Very, 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 very cool. Why am I saying cool like that, bro? That's so... Very weird. Anyways, alright, now that that's situated, Egypt would begin to kind of crumble, I guess, because the Ottomans would easily break the stalemate, because they're the Ottomans. So with the Ottomans taking out Egypt, they would feel before like it even like hit them, they would declare war on Egypt. They would declare war on these three. Now they want their coast, so the Ottoman Navy is going to do that. They are going to move the Ottoman Navy on the coast of these three countries. But you know what's going to get pretty mad at that? Italy. As Italy, I think they like using the Adriatic Sea and the Mediterranean, but with the Ottomans there, they're taking out what they do. So Italy's going to do this, and Italy does have a navy. Not like it's not. I don't know if it's like the big. It might not be the biggest navy, but it is a navy. So they're gonna launch their navy, and the first naval battle of this episode or video is going to happen between the Italians and the Ottomans. Now, at first, the Italians are going to take sea. Like, they're going to win the first few naval battles just because it's near them and the Italian Navy is actually ready. Because the Ottoman Navy was being, like, full-on, like, sent to this area, and they were planning on sending, like, a bunch of Navy vessels. So, the Italians and, Ottomans would engage in a very fierce naval battle. With the Italians mobilizing their navy and surrounding Corsica, which the French would be very salty about, but they just wouldn't care, as Italy's in a war. Eventually, Italy would begin to basically encase the Ottoman Navy, and I don't know if you guys can correct me in the comments. I doubt Italy has this big of a navy, but we're just gonna say that they do, because Italy, before they joined, they were like, let's just say that they were like mobilizing their navy or something. But let's not focus on the navy part, because we want to focus on the land part. That's why everyone's here, right? Unless they're here for navy battles, which I doubt people are. They're here for the mapping. So while naval battles are happening, Ottoman troops are landing on the coast of these countries, because landing ships are a thing. So eventually, the Ottomans would basically start invading these countries. But while this was happening, they would also be close to signing a peace treaty with Egypt, and that's what they would actually do. So let's make a quick peace treaty while in a war. Alright, so Ottoman troops coming out of Tunisia, and honestly, Algeria would be kind of cooked here, because what are they going to do in this situation? Libya would be very much collapsing at this point. Ottoman troops in bigger numbers would be coming out of Egypt, because, I mean, that's where most of their troops are. I mean, not all of their troops are on boats. So Libyan forces would be experiencing mostly the full might of the Ottoman Empire, while Algeria would be only experiencing some. Eventually, Libya would basically be forced to surrender, while all of the Ottoman troops that were in Libya would be heading into Algeria, and Algeria would be just starting to collapse. Like, just beginning to collapse. Eventually, they would get to the point where Morocco would probably join soon, but just then, the Algerians would make a quick and swift pushback. But the thing was, too, is that if Italy wanted to send help, they wouldn't even be able to, because maybe if they defeated the Ottoman Navy, then they could get naval superiority. So someone else was aiding the Algerians. And the Ottomans knew that. But who was aiding the Algerians, you may ask? Not other than King Egypt. They were mad, so they moved aid through. And, yeah. So the Ottomans knew that they had to contain the Egyptians somehow, so another invasion of the Egyptians began. Yep. But this time, the Egyptians were the ones that were pushing into Ottoman territory. Yeah, they were pushing in. this time. It wasn't the Ottomans that were doing it, it was them. Because the Egyptians knew this would happen, so they were making a force ready. They cut the Ottomans off from the Suez Canal and got their own navy to fight the Ottomans. Because the Ottoman navy was not ready for this, the Egyptians had a fun time killing off the Ottoman navy, while also beginning battles from the Ottoman navy and trying to connect with the Italian navies, which they would do. So the Ottoman navy would be very surprised by this, as Italy would make a counterattack by this group of Ottoman navy, and that's something. Now the Ottomans, this wouldn't be the first time in history that they had a coalition against them, as they had the whole Holy Leagues, and they also had Russia against them a lot. So the Ottomans would realize that they're just trying to repeat history and collapse them again. So the Ottomans would tell their troops to basically hold out and while backup arrives. And this would happen, and especially in Algeria. The Algerian forces in the north, though, would get completely destroyed, as they would have gotten this message late. But once they got past that, they were fully entrenched and ready. Especially in Libya, the attrition in Libya would be horrible for Egyptian troops, while the Ottomans would be preparing a force to deal with the Egyptians, especially near the Suez. Ottoman troops would begin an invasion into the Suez Canal, and also in this peninsula. I don't know what it's called. I have to research more, which I haven't been doing because I've been focused on other things. Eventually, the Ottoman troops would win the Battle of the Suez, and another fleet of Ottoman navy would be sent up from this area, and would immediately expand their naval dominance up to the Suez area. And this navy fleet would immediately focus on killing the Egyptian navy, but also sending a fleet down into the Suez, where the Egyptian navy would be completely killed. Now remember, the Ottomans are buffed, so this is going to be a quick and easy. This isn't going to be a quick and easy sweep, but it is going to be something. The Ottoman navy would get to the point where they have Tunisia, and the Egyptian front would begin to collapse, as the Ottomans would just continuously send more and more troops, and they would begin landing on the coast. And plus, Egypt with no coast, and that's kind of why they invaded again, to get rid of so they could liberate their coast and start. Because the Egyptian economy was completely destroyed after this. So the Ottomans would also be invading Egypt, trying to take it out again, and also probably gonna take more land. Although the Egyptians did have a coast, they were right here. I don't know why they invaded again. And the Egyptians would be humiliated, as this time they invaded and they still lost 2 wars against the Ottomans that they would lose. Eventually, Egypt would have to surrender, and Italy would end up. Speak. Eventually, Libya would begin to collapse too, as Egyptian troops as Ottoman troops would be getting into Libya and also landing on the coast. Now, all of the troops that were stationed are obviously going to start battling again, with the reinforcements cutting Italian troops from Algerian troops in the north, while Ottoman troops begin winning battles again. Algeria would kind of just be isolated, and without the Italian help, they would be now. You might be saying, if the Ottomans are buffed, why don't they just win navy battles, take out this, and invade the Italian peninsula, win it, and then take out Algeria and Tunisia? Well, they want to focus on Africa, as that's why they declared the war in the first place. And plus, the Ottoman support to invade Italy was kind of not there, because the Ottoman support is in Africa, and the people want to kill off Africa, because that's kind of what the Ottomans were planning on. They said that they would do it. And then they did a bunch of propaganda saying that they were liberating Africa from the other Europeans, and then their people were very much happy about that. But eventually they would start, and then eventually the Ottomans would begin making propaganda saying that Italy is full of evil and that they need to get rid of it and liberate it. So people would definitely be supportive of this. I don't know why they would, but they definitely would. Eventually, an operation to get rid of Italian forces out of Libya would be successful, although they would be getting bombarded by the Italian Navy. They would still but there would be tons of casualties while doing this. The Ottoman Navy slowly would be winning battles around the African coast, and they would also begin making the Italian Navy retreat more into their area, The Ottomans would do the same, and the new naval front would begin. Now, the Ottomans would try to be taking out Sicily, and they would be sending their navy out there. So the Ottoman Navy would make a spearhead toward Sicily, and would be trying to get their navy to surround the coast. This would definitely be hard, but eventually the Ottomans would do it. But they would even go for surrounding some of the boot, which would also be successful. The Ottoman Greek force would be moving up the Italian peninsula, and they would stop there as they are getting ready to launch troops. An airborne attack would be sent in a bunch of Eventually, Ottoman troops would move up Sicily and up the boot, while Italian troops would be trying their hardest to stop the Ottoman force, but it would be too late. The Ottoman troops, though, would stop because the Italian Navy would start bombarding it, but Rome would definitely be taken by now, because I think Rome's down here. The Ottoman Navy would move up and capture Sardinia and surround Sardinia, while also catching their navy up. The Ottomans would capture Sardinia while also making a spearhead, but in the middle of the country, so the naval bombardment wouldn't catch them. But they did this because this would have consequences, but they would try it anyway. They were correct. The Italians would definitely push back, so the Ottomans would be encircling, but also getting bombarded. But they would have to move troops up the coast as well, which they would attempt because the Ottoman Navy on this side would be following them, making sure that the Italian Navy can't bombard them from that side. France would obviously be salty about this, as now the Ottoman Navy is surrounding Corsica, but they still wouldn't enter the war. The Ottomans would fully take the coast of western Italy, making it so the Ottoman troops can easily just make it up the coast and move through the mountainous terrain. Now, this would be a very much long war, and So obviously, I might split this into parts. So you'll get part 1, which is the Italian part, and then part 2 will be whatever other part I do. Now eventually, though, the Italians would surrender, and the Ottoman Navy be disbanded. So the final treaty for part 1 is this. Let's go do the peace treaty. All right, so the Ottomans are finally got what they really wanted, and they have their African lands, their Balkan lands, and they even have lands of Italy in the south. Now this is going to conclude part 1, but for the end of part 1, we're going to have this happen. Eventually, Tunisia would be very unstable and would join Algeria, while Egypt and Libya would have to unite. And Africa has lost 2 countries just because they've gone to unions. So, who knows? But eventually, because none of them have a coast except Algeria, they would all unionize because they're going to be exploiting this coast a lot. So a North African Union would show up, and this union would literally only exist because of the Ottomans. So these guys hate the Ottomans, and the Ottomans are going to have some trouble in the future because of these guys. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Part 2 will hopefully come out next week or maybe tomorrow, because this video is going to come out on Saturday for you guys. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll see you guys in part 2. So bye bye.